Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are a fellowship of people who share our experience, strength, and hope with each other, in order to solve the common problem that plagues the world, and that problem is vampires. What's said in this room, among us, shall remain among us, lest we reveal our plans to the enemy, or an agent of the enemy. Rose Keller asked me to chair the meeting tonight. We'll go around the room, give our first name, screen name, and a little about why we are here. Last week we had a share from Wade, and it was too much for a couple of people. They left the group and won't return. They have sworn themselves to secrecy about our order. Rose is looking for a way to monitor and ensure that they comply with their obligation. My name is Chris. My screen name is Actors. I had a neighbor that was a vampire. I watched him come and go during the night, bringing people home. I didn't see them leave, but they turned up on the news dead. He moved before I could do anything. I came to this group to chronicle and document the things we discover.
My name is Leah. My screen name is Lady Lionheart. I got a BS in forensic science at SJSU. I was hired as a San Jose beat cop. Soon I made detective. We started finding mutilated bodies near the Guadalupe River. The chief of police made a press releasing they were all homeless overdoses. My training told me otherwise. I met with the coroner Dr. Candy Quincy and observed her doing autopsies. She only worked at night because she had a condition that made her sensitive to the daylight. During the day I went back to have a look around at the morgue. It was empty, except for one body that was unaccounted for. There was no paperwork on her, no toe tag. She was cold and dead, but there was no trauma to her body of any kind, not even needle marks. She was quite young, and it was really strange that she was unaccounted for. I went home and got some rest and returned to the morgue at night to talk to Dr. Quincy. Approaching the morgue door, I saw Dr. Quincy with the same woman I had seen in the cold storage locker. I tried to bring the discrepancies between the reports and the forensic evidence to my superiors, and they told me to stand down. I researched on my own and admit that I was pretty sleep deprived. One night, I was leaving my shift. A police car backed over me. I was put on permanent disability and told I couldn't return to work. I know there's something going on, and the woman in the cold locker was a vampire and the coroner is most likely a vampire. There's some kind of cover-up with the police as well.
I guess I'll go. My name is Danny. I'm Truthfinder. I grew up fascinated with magic. And my parents indulged me and bought me a magic kit. I started learning how to perform tricks and illusions, which aren't supernatural or anything like that. They're all based on sleight of hand and distraction and getting people to see what you want them to see. I became pretty popular on YouTube with my magic tricks, and I'm a very rational person. I don't like frauds and psychic mediums cheating people for money. I offered $20,000 to anyone who could demonstrate actual psychic ability, supernatural ability, or paranormal ability, under scientific test conditions. They all failed. Then I had a recent encounter with, maybe it was a vampire? I'm not sure, to be honest. But I had no way to disprove it. I need to know the truth, and I need to know what's going on for my own sanity, if nothing else.
I guess I'll go next. My name is Wade, and online I'm the Demon Slayer. I did a share last week, and I gather it had a traumatic effect on some folks. I apologize for that. But it was the best that I could do. I was trained as an architect and civil engineer. I got a job for the city inspecting old buildings prior to demolition. While inspecting an abandoned building, I encountered two vampires, and accidentally killed one of them, and then I killed the other one. Intentionally, when they attacked me. I never really gave much thought to vampires until this happened, but it's opened my mind and changed my reality in ways I didn't sign up for. My story is at least as traumatic to me as it was to anyone who heard it. The first one burst into flames when I busted open the window, then I ended up having to kill one of them with a crowbar, then pulling it into the sun. Anyway, I'm starting to read up on vampires, and trying to get in tune to that culture and what people think, and do, in that culture, and that's where I am right now.
Good evening everyone, my name is Rose Keller, and I'm co-founder of the Bay Area Vampire Hunters. I was a housewife in Los Altos. I had a beautiful home, beautiful family. I was married to a Stanford surgeon. We had a son, our 12-year-old Timmy. He was a wonderful little boy, and I miss him so much. He went missing in 1998. We found his exsanguinated body 2 days later in a remote area of Rancho San Antonio. The crime scene was surrounded by black candles and occult symbols. I hounded the police to get information to catch Timmy's killers. I started investigating on my own, and found there were similar murders all around the world. I became convinced that there was a cabal of Satan worshippers, luring children into the occult through role-playing games, like Dungeons and Dragons. At first the police helped and listened to my advice about the occult. But over the years they thought my claims became more outlandish, when they were actually more truthful. My husband left me. I continued to search. A year ago I found a calling card for a Mr. Virgil Wells at an occult crime scene. I went to the mansion in Los Angeles. I introduced myself to the servant. He seemed pleasantly surprised when he heard my name, and escorted me into the study to meet Mr. Wells. He was so handsome and charming. I demanded he tell me the truth. He bared his fangs and chased me. He cut me off as I tried to flee. I screamed, and the next thing I knew I was in the back of a police car. They said they did a welfare check on a woman incoherent in the street. I was taken to the hospital for evaluation, and I knew I could no longer depend on the police. I give lectures to the public, to churches, and at rural police departments, on the dangers of Satanism and the occult, but I don't mention vampires. I have a blog, and post YouTube videos about satanic vampires, and I co-founded this organization. If something happens to me, there are mirror sites set up. My Christian faith sustains me through this crusade against the occult satanic vampires.
My name is Marika. Online I'm Mrs. Van Helsing. My husband and I, we just celebrated our 10-year wedding anniversary. He works with a pharmaceutical company, and was at this trade show in Vegas. And he didn't come home. He had disappeared. My background is in marketing, so I plastered posters everywhere. The police finally looked into it, and they found his abandoned rental car. His suitcase was in the trunk. The news reported they found some woman's dead body, and his wallet was nearby, so they wanted to find him, because maybe he knew something about it. I think that the police suspected my husband. I wanted to believe that he was alive. But the news stopped reporting on him. I was at home one night, and I heard the door open and somebody was in my house, but I recognized the footfalls. It was my husband. I heard him drop his keys into the little tray. I ran to greet him, and hugged him, and he was ice cold. I offered to draw him a bath, and then he said he had something important to tell me. He'd been carjacked, and held in a warehouse, and they did horrific things to him. He didn't tell me exactly what. He passed out, and when he came to, there was a group of people telling him that he was dead. But they reanimated him. And he was trying to understand. Anyways, he told me he killed a woman. He drained her. I was thinking he'd had a nervous breakdown. I tried to understand what he was telling me. He slept during the day and was awake only at night. One morning, when I awoke, I found a note from him. He said that his desire for blood was too strong, and that he was concerned he might hurt me. So he left. He said he wanted to embrace the sunrise. And I never saw him again. He killed himself to protect me. Anyway, I'm glad I'm here with you. I don't know what to believe, but I'm glad to have some people that don't think I'm crazy.
Well, I'm not as good at sharing as all of you. But I am here as a dedicated vampire hater. I have real-life experience, having been attacked myself, and feel lucky and unlucky in some ways to have survived that, because it scarred me emotionally. I'm not able to move on with life. I could never resume a regular life and work. I'm obsessed with anxiety about this anger, about this fear, and the need for some kind of revenge. You know, I can't really sleep at night. I need to be awake because that's when vampires are active. Finding this group is helpful, because other people like yourselves understand what I'm going through. How can anyone else understand this? No one can understand this, no one in the community or the workplace, so I have taken an early retirement. I've dedicated my life to this group, and the eradication of all vampires.
Does full spectrum lighting do the same thing that the sun does? Can we simulate sunlight with artificial means?
According to the research I've done, neither UV nor full spectrum light has any effect on vampires. Vampires are supernatural creatures.
I don't believe in the supernatural stuff. We know sunlight kills them. We just have to find out what is it about sunlight that kills them.
My research has led me to the possibility that it is the muons in the sun's rays that cause damage. Although it is rather impractical to prove, since we don't have a portable particle collider.
What about silver bullets, or silver swords?
Inconclusive. There have been reports that silver causes burns, and other reports that it doesn't. The same has been said about holy water.
If silver is reputed to work in some cases, perhaps we should try all the heavy metals, especially the radioactive ones. They might have that sun-like element that does it.
What about a reflection of sunlight? Could a silver disc or mirror be used to direct a beam and aim it at a vampire?
Perhaps. As long as it's during the day. The moon reflects sunlight, and yet the moonbeams don't harm vampires. There are reports that vampires can heal quickly and regrow limbs, but I've never heard of one regrowing a head. Decapitation seems to work.
It's important to figure out what harms them. But, besides killing individual vampires, I think there's a bigger problem here. They seem to have infiltrated the police department in some way, because of the cover-ups of killings along the Guadalupe River. I'm pretty sure Coroner Quincy is a vampire, but they seem to also have human familiars that aid them during the day. I think we need to tail the coroner.
We need to sort out superstition from facts, because that's the only way we're going to be able to combat them.
If we could capture one, we could try different things and see what works.
That's like a lion in a cage, and what if it got out?
I think they're easier to kill than to capture and keep. I think we should try to find the kind of places that attract them. I found them completely by accident, in an old abandoned building. They could be in factories or sewers.
I would like to be able to see who Dr. Quincy's associates are. Then we could take out a bunch of them.
It's much easier to destroy a vampire when you outnumber him.
I still have a contact in the police department.
And how do you know your contact is safe?
I don't know for sure. The police department wasn't happy when I started digging into this stuff though. It could be that the department is under vampire control.
It has been my experience that the police are either incompetent or compromised.
Well, I'm sure that the coroner's at least hiding vampire kills.
If you get rid of the coroner, you get rid of their ability to hide their kills.
They could replace her. Maybe, who knows?
How long would that take? How many vampire coroners are there anyway?
The police department, working in tandem with a coroner, is worse than the mob with a cement factory. It's complete impunity, it's horrifying.
Before tonight, what was the group's purpose, goal and direction?
To gather people that have common faith and understanding about the satanic character and reality of vampires. I wanted to have a group where we could openly talk about these creatures, and pray about how to tap into God's power to destroy and defeat them. I plan to stop them from killing more people, like they did my young innocent Timmy.
And how long have you been doing this, Rose?
A long time.
And how many have you killed?
I haven't killed any.
Wade has killed 2.
Are we going to go after destroying and eradicating or discovering and exposing vampires? I think Rose's experience with trying to expose them supports more the idea of destroying them. You cannot get people to believe in the existence of something. It's like those people who've had UFO experiences trying to convince someone who hasn't had the experience that aliens are real. I think it's about figuring out as a group how to kill them, and maybe from there, we'll meet other people like us that want to join us in our mission. If we could capture one, perhaps we could convince others, but how do we keep it? And what do we feed it? Rats?
Even if we're going to kill Dr. Quincy, which I totally agree we should, we have to find where she goes during the day when she's vulnerable, so we can actually kill her. I don't think we should try to kill her at night at the morgue. Hold on. I believe I have her home address.
We could always take her cell phone and look through her contacts, and there's bound to be a vampire in there, as well as some human connections and power.
So Danny, why don't you come with me and we'll stake out her home as the sun goes down? Then we can break in. I'm assuming you know how to pick locks since you're a magician.
Yes, I do Houdini-like escapes as well as illusions and magic.
We should all exchange phone numbers.
I'm happy to stake out the morgue and let you guys know when she's leaving.
I'd like to go with you.
Sure. Maybe the rest of you can get some sleep and be on standby.
Just so you all know, Dr. Quincy has ectodermal dysplasia, which means she's bald and has pointy teeth like a vampire.
Terrific, we'll end the meeting now. And we'll get started on this at sundown.
Okay everyone, I'll catch you up on what happened. Leah and I watched Quincy leave for work. I used my superior lock-picking skills, and we went inside. The place looked like a time warp from the 70s.
He's right. And there were no appliances in the kitchen. We accessed the crawl space under the house from the hall closet. There were a bunch of have-a-heart rat traps set up down there.
That's right. But in the garage, there were a lot of dehydrators running. We opened the doors and saw rats in various stages of mummification.
Yeah, rats without heads. Their heads had been bitten off, and their blood had been sucked out. Then the bodies were put into dehydrators to dry them up, so they wouldn't decay and stink.
Here comes the sun. Are we ready to get some wooden stakes and kill her? Or is this more about surveillance?
We're kind of tired. We were up all night. We should be at our best. We shouldn't do it right now. We watched the door of the morgue all night, and no one went in or out until she finished her shift and came home.
I'm going to text the others and catch them up on all that we found, and ask Rose if she would call a meeting at noon today. Meanwhile, excuse me, but I'm going to go home and sleep before the next meeting.
Excellent idea.
Rose got back to me already, and noon works great. Have a good rest, and I'll see you all at noon.